The circle of life is real, very real, and you can observe it all around you if you're living in the right place. Simply put, everything in nature is interconnected and interdependent, and the life flows from one place to another, and eventually flows back to where it was in the first place. That way, it's a circle, even though it might not literally be one, it's spiritually it's one. So, the energy for life comes from the sun and is converted into glucose and all that in photosynthesis, and all the plants feed off the sunlight and stuff, and that creates all of this nature that you see around you. And because of that plant life, there is animal life. The animal life feeds off of the plant life and survives based on that energy. And if it wasn't for the animal life, there wouldn't be able to be any plant life this advanced, because it is the exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen between the two kingdoms which allows for this complex of life to exist in the first place. And this cycle is very sacred, and we don't revere it anymore, which is a source of a lot of our problems. If we simply had more piety for this cycle, then a lot of our issues would resolve themselves. Unfortunately, we don't know the meaning of piety anymore. So when animals die, they fertilize the soil. They fertilize the soil in other ways too, and that allows for plant life, which in turn sustains the animal life. And the plant life also fertilizes the ground, which allows for, um, you know, more life. And and the the water in the environment flows from place to place. For example, like you can see, trees use water, animals use water, plants, animals, everything, life uses water. And so water flows from place to place in nature. It gets used, and it gets recycled, and it gets used again. New water is not created often, but rather is just eternally flowing from place to place, being reused. If it was not reused, then it would have ran out a long time ago. It just makes sense. But instead, we have this cycle where it gets reused and recycled, which is very important. If we didn't have this cycle, we wouldn't be alive, which is why the water cycle is very important. And in our modern world, we're meddling with that, with climate change and all that, and we shouldn't do that, because the water cycle is very important, and we will likely perish if it ceases to act in the way it does. So, water might be an animal this second, then it's in the ground, it's in the trees, it's in the plants, it's in the grass, it's in the rivers. It's just going from place to place, right? So it's a circle going from place to place, and there's the food web. It's not really a chain, that only gives you a partial picture. It goes from the bottom up, but it doesn't give you a whole picture, because it's actually not that simple. In reality, it's more of a web, because there's an interconnected network of animals. Unfortunately, in nature you have to eat to survive, so that's where carnivorism comes from. And animals eat other animals, and there's a hierarchy in nature, so yeah, that's natural hierarchy. Hierarchy is natural of animals that are interconnected and interdependent, and if any one of these aspects disappeared in an environment, the environment would likely collapse, which only proves the interdependence of nature. And this interdependence is sort of like a circle. It the interdependence um it's energy flowing from animals to other animals, and the flow of life allows for life to exist at all, because it couldn't exist if there wasn't a flow. If there was always the same individuals in nature, then there wouldn't be life at all, because, well, nothing's changing. It's just completely static, so, that wouldn't really be alive, but things have to move to be alive. And if they move, well, you know what that means. They have to begin. And if they begin, they have to end, creating the circle. And just kind of the way it is in nature, in the universe. Maybe it's possible it could have been no other way, but yes, you have to consume other life to sustain your own life. And that's just the way the logical universe works, and that's what creates the circle in the first place. And if this delicate balance of predation is not preserved, the environment's going to collapse. And you certainly don't want herbivores to overpopulate, because in that case, they're going to destroy their own environment, so the population's eventually going to crash, which could affect the environment negatively in other ways. And if the predator population is too high, then they're going to kill other herbivores, and then the plants might overrun everything, and that wouldn't be good. And if this balance of nature is not carefully preserved, it's gonna fall down very easily, very quickly, and that's quite a bad thing. And the life in nature has to be very acutely configured so that it stays able to function in the first place. But when animals or plants or whatever life dies, it's not gone. It's not ended forever, because it goes back to the whole of nature. So it emerged from nature, it goes back to nature. So it doesn't actually disappear, it doesn't end, but it goes on to turn into something else. And so it goes back to nature, but it doesn't stay there, because nature is not idle. It flows back into the cycle, the circle, and it becomes something else, or becomes multiple new things. So yes, it is a cycle, there is a circle. There's a circle of life in nature.